everybody. Welcome back to Sacred Health. I'm Carolyn. Today we're doing a solo episode. I wanted to, go through 5 things that I would tell my younger self. So I just recently turned 32, and that sounds fucking weird to say that because I feel like I'm 25, like mentally, emotionally, and physically. I feel young. I feel younger, and I remember when I was a kid, my friend Amanda. So this is like in middle school, like very like 6th grade or so. And so my sister, we're 10 years apart. And so we would be like, oh my gosh, when my sister turns 20, you're gonna be 30. Like I'll be 30 years old. And we thought like that was so weird and so old, and we would just laugh about it. And then, once I turned 30, I texted her. It was just like, okay, this is it. I'm 30 now, my sister's 20, and it's just, it's very weird sometimes to think about that. But I don't think being in your 30s is bad. I'm not, when I turned 30, I was excited for it. I was excited for the changes because I just felt like the 20s are the years to figure things out. And for people, it could look differently for a lot of people. And you don't really know what you're doing. And I guess in your 30s, you also don't really know what you're doing, but at least you've had some life experience under your belt to kind of start to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I mean, so being 32, I'm like, I don't feel 32, so I don't really care. Like it's just a number on, my birth certificate or whatever, but I'm not like distraught about it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I do want to, yeah, I guess just go over 5 things I would tell my younger self. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you could see I have this like fake background thing behind me because honestly, my room where I do this it's completely trashed. It's so dirty. So instead of sharing that, I put a little fake background so you can see the northern lights. And it's kind of thrown me off because I have a water bottle in my hand and it's like partly visible and partly not. It's just like really glitchy looking. It's kind of cheesy, but anyway, hope you get some enjoyment out of that. If you're watching, it's kind of funny. But okay, so 5 things I would tell my younger self. So I would tell like my 18-year-old self these things. It does apply to like teenager years, too, but I think if I could actually go back and like literally tell a version of myself this, it would be me as an 18-year-old out of high school, like in between high school and college, or just starting college, and just it's like that feeling of just starting out, just your life, you have your whole life ahead of you, and you have no idea what the fuck you're doing or no idea what you want, and you're just like, okay, that's who I would tell this information to. Okay, so this is in no particular order, by the way. Okay, so the first thing I would tell my younger self, my 18-year-old self, is to self-reflect. Okay, and what I mean by this is ask yourself questions that make you learn more about yourself throughout your life. Like, do this consistently, do this all the time, because I mean, if you think about it, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you want, what you like, what you don't like, what your values are, if you don't know like anything about yourself, I mean, this goes beyond just like when people ask you, tell me about yourself, and you don't know what to say. Like this is like real stuff. Um, because I've literally had this happen to me. Especially after having children, which I'll get into having kids and things like that in a little bit, but like especially after having kids, people would be like, tell me about yourself, like, and I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. And it's like that sucks to be in a place where you've kind of lost your identity, you've lost your sense of self, or maybe you've never even found it yet. Because let's be real, when I was 18, I did not have that at all. So like you figure that out. Figure that out that like now, like if I'm talking to an 18-year-old, like figure that out starting now because it's so important and it applies forever. You know, you can be fucking 100 years old and that still applies because it's you're still human. You're still living this experience of life. Like you should know that. And the more you ask yourself questions, assess yourself, kind of just figure things out, the more secure you'll be in yourself, the more grounded you'll be within yourself, um, within your like phases of your life through obstacles, and it'll help you be more authentic, more genuine. It'll help you set boundaries because you'll know like what constitutes a boundary, like what is in alignment with your values or what isn't, and then you can set boundaries based on that information. Like there's so many things that this applies to. So this is probably the most important is self-reflect. Ask yourself questions that make you think, find people to look up to that, make you think, that make you reflect, that kind of inspire that action because it is impactful, it's meaningful, and it will help you go far in life. If you could start that inner work as a teen slash young adult, it will definitely take you far in life. If you have that mindset of like, I'm learning, I'm growing for the rest of my life. And, learning about myself is a whole journey, it's a whole experience, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's so valuable. And like now, of course, I look back and I'm like, damn, if I would have done that then, I feel like a lot of things would have changed. But I guess that's kind of the whole point of this is like all these things that I thought of, if I would have done them when I was 18, like would have made a significant impact in my life. So if I could tell any of you guys, you don't have to be 18, you could be even in your 20s or even in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. Like these things apply to everyone, regardless of your age. Um, you know what I'm saying? But like you can be older than that and it can still take something out of it because it's easy to forget stuff as you grow. It's so easy. And I hope these things can help you like get reminders to just, think on these things. Okay. Um, and I think too, the more you self-reflect, it helps you, like I said, be more in tune with your authenticity, be in tune with your soul's purpose, like your soul's desires, like what you want, your boundaries. And that in turn will help you be a better human, a better partner, a child, a sibling, a coworker, or whatever, just anyone. It'll help you be a better person because you can communicate to other people what you need, what you want, what you don't like, what is triggering you, and how can you guys come to a solution, a resolution between an argument or something, you know what I'm saying? Knowing these things will really fucking help you. Because I just look back and I think on so many moments of my life where I was not even aware of my triggers. I didn't even know the word trigger was a meaning for something that that bothered me. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many buzzwords now of inner work, personal development type terms, like inner work and trauma response and like uh like behavioral patterns and things that like when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, basically from 18 to 25, probably even later than that, I didn't know about stuff like this. Like it was not as mainstream. Um, do you know what I mean? So like just having the verbiage, having the terminology to like make sense of what you're experiencing and how you can communicate that to other people is so fucking huge. So that starts with self-reflection, that starts with, the inner work and just having the awareness at all to even figure out who you are. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's number one. Number one. Okay. Number two, love and honor your inner child. Yeah, this is big. Inner child work, like I said, is another buzzword. It's popular now. Back in the day, it was not a thing, you know, and I mean, even if I'm talking to like myself as an 18-year-old, I had a lot of childhood versions of myself that needed some love and that I didn't have the awareness, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't even know that was a thing, like it wasn't discussed like it is now, it's more common. People don't look at you like you're a weirdo if they're like talking about inner child work. I guess some people anyway, because it's a thing. It's like if you're in the personal development type of space, you've heard of that somewhere at some point in time. You know what I mean? Like back then, it was not, at least not for me. I mean, maybe in the circle of personal development, it was a thing, but just like it wasn't shared with like teenagers and young adults that I was aware of. Do you know what I mean? So it could have benefited a lot of us, I think, as teenagers, as young adults, to learn about this, to learn about inner child work and what it means and how you can begin that. Um, I was a fiery kid. I was like a sensitive, I mean, I still am. I say was, but I am fiery. I am sensitive. I am a feeler, like an intense emotion type of person. I feel things very intensely. And sometimes, actually, like 99% of the time, it's incredibly overwhelming for me to feel my feelings. Especially like sadness and anger, anxiety. Those feelings are like very intense within my physical body where like it's like I don't know how to handle it, and even now I have so many more tools now that I've learned over the years, but especially like as a kid and as a teen, I did not know how to handle that shit. My parents didn't know how to handle that. I was just like, way too much for them. Like they did not have the tools to deal with me. I mean, I actually, for how much like tension in the home there was between me and my parents growing up, in that like middle school, high school air like time frame, we fought a lot, lots of arguing, like lots of resistance, but I didn't get in that much trouble. Like I got in trouble with them because I was like screaming all the time and like being a bitch. But like as far as like being a troubled teen and like getting into trouble, getting um what you would like expect a troubled teen to do, get in trouble with cops or like partying and all that. Like I didn't do that. Um, which is good. But like if I think back, it's like, damn, I mean, I could have like I guess it just wasn't ever something I wanted to get into, but like for how much drama I caused like in my house, I guess it's kind of like surprising to me that like it wasn't worse than that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so anyway, back to that, like I was a very fiery child, teenager, a lot of intense feelings that I didn't have the tools to handle. So like how I can love and honor my inner child is just like going back to those moments that I remember feeling so intensely and confused and like misunderstood, not heard by the people around me, where like I can see her, I can see the younger versions of me in those moments of time and just like support her, give her love, like just like I see you. I understand now what you were going through, and this is all done like in a meditative state or in journaling form, even you could do maybe with EFT tapping, like there's all different ways someone could go about this. I just prefer the meditation and visualizing type of work with this. But you could I mean there's times where I've done inner child work and I'm like, I see you, I have a memory, and then I'm like visualizing my younger self in that memory, and then I'm like, okay, I see you, this is what happened, this is maybe what they meant, by this, but like they didn't have the words to explain it that way, or here's another perspective. Like I understand now what I felt or what they felt, and I can like try to explain it to that younger version of me. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it helped release a lot of like grief. It helped me feel like seen and like I could let go of like resentment and bitterness and just like feeling misunderstood or you know, I think it's super common as teenagers, especially to feel misunderstood by your family or friends even. And I think what makes it especially hard is that we don't have the vocabulary, the number one, the vocabulary to explain what we're feeling and how to communicate that. Number two, the skill set to listen and receive other people's words. Um, didn't learn that. Also, the tools to process your emotions like in a healthy way. That's a huge part because a lot of us in some way or another did not process our emotions in a healthy way. There was drugs, drinking, self-harm, um, eating disorders, there's I mean, I don't know, all kinds of stuff that people could do to, and not just teens, obviously adults as well, do these things to numb, to use as a coping mechanism, because they don't have the tools. So if adults clearly struggle with stuff like this, and especially teens do too, and I know when I was a teenager, there was definitely not a lot of talk on this. The mental health space now, I mean, it's so different now. I think if you're like a younger person than me, tell me how it was when you were in school. Um, with like learning about mental health, learning about processing emotions in a healthy way, learning about communication and um, behavioral patterns and like and stuff like that. Like, tell me if you learned that because I definitely did not learn that. And like I said, it was only when I was well into my 20s that I finally started learning of things like this and could try to start implementing them myself in my personal life. Another thing about loving and honoring your inner child is that we carry trauma with us in our body energetically, and that turns into subconscious beliefs and traumas. And like trauma is not always huge events that are like what someone would assume is a trauma, which is, like abuse, watching someone die, like, stuff like that. There's like big T trauma, which is like really big trauma like that, like, abuse of any kind, watching someone die in front of you, or like getting in an accident, or maybe, like horrible stuff like that. But little T trauma is stuff that you perceive as traumatic. Your body, your mind perceive as traumatic, but it's not necessarily like a big deal. Like I say that with quotations. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you were 6 and like this girl you wanted to play with at recess, she was like, I don't want to play with you. Go away. Like in the grand scheme of things, like that is not a serious thing. Like you could move forward from it, but like you still perceive it as traumatic because it's hurtful. It hurt your feelings. And especially as children, if we don't have the tools to handle it, that's gonna get stored in our body and our energy and our subconscious and affect us moving forward. So it's important to look back and reflect and try to release and process these things. Otherwise, you're gonna have so much stored inside you, and it causes a lot of grief moving forward if you're not aware, or if you are aware and you just haven't tried to like process it and let it go. Okay, this one, this one is the whammy for me. Okay, explore your sexuality in general, but like especially after having kids. So explore your sexuality before and after having children. You can see why this is big for me because obviously I did not do this. So now, as a 32-year-old, I'm like, oh, I could have done this a long time ago, you know? And it's like, what the fuck? So anyway, okay, to give you backstory, I grew up in a home where sex was bad. You don't talk about it, you don't think about it. It's just, you don't. It's like, mm-mm. It's like my, my parents, I love them. They just did what they knew. I don't know why they were so uncomfortable because they're not idiots. Like they know it's a thing. They know teenagers will do it if they want to do it. But like they're just so uncomfortable with talking about it and it's kind of makes me giggle kind of now to an extent, but also it's kind of like annoying. But I've been there because now as a parent, I've had phases where it's like I was super uncomfortable and now I'm like not as I've moved forward from that. But anyway, um, so yeah, it was very much like don't think about it, don't talk about it. It's bad. I had a family member who got pregnant young. She was like 18-ish when she got pregnant. And she was older than me, but only by a few years. And so it was basically like that was and I should say teen pregnancy when I was in high school was not that common. There was only a few people that it happened to, so still like I mean I don't know about like now in schools how common it is. I know like when perceiving people it's not as big of a deal now. um there's more resources for teen parents and young parents out there. Like there's not as much of a stigma, but definitely when I was in high school it was still like kind of new and people would be like huh. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, there was a family member. She had got pregnant young. She had graduated, I think, high school. She either graduated high school already or like was gonna graduate. So she finished high school and everything. But still it was young and for, like I said, it wasn't common when I was in high school. So it was like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And so because that happened to that family member of mine, my parents were just like, don't do that. Don't do that because that will mess you up your life. Basically, if you have a kid outside of marriage, don't do that. Okay. So, yeah. So there's that. I had that kind of like going into my subconscious constantly. Okay. And even in high school, which now I'm like wondering, did that influence me in high school to just like suppress? Well, I guess it kind of did because oh God, suppressing sexuality. It's a thing. And if I like really dig deep and reflect, I totally did. I suppressed it a lot. And I wonder, if like that was what started it, really, now that I'm like talking out loud and thinking about it, if that was what started me like suppressing it subconsciously. Because by the time that family member had their baby, I was in 8th grade. And like before that, it's like sexuality stuff did not apply to me. Like I had no interest in like doing it. I definitely had like thoughts. Like now that I like reflect back, like I had like normal thoughts of it of like as you're going through puberty and like, but I didn't actually like want to have sex with anybody at that time. So that wasn't like it didn't really matter, like do you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't a big deal in middle school. Like I didn't really give a fuck about that. But in high school, it's like after that family member had her baby, it was like 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And so, of course, those years are very formative, typically in teenagers and like figuring this stuff out, you know? And I just suppressed it. I suppressed a lot. um, and I didn't even like realize it at the time, definitely not. It wasn't until um doing this work on myself now and like really reflecting on this and embracing my sexuality now as a woman, as an adult woman, like that I've kind of like slowly been gathering these things that yeah, I suppressed so much in my teen years. And it just like what it was a fucking mind fuck. Like what the fuck? So basically, yeah, so that whole and then there's this whole thing with religion influencing people's actions, viewpoints on this, obviously. And I mean, it's one thing if you truly feel like that is in alignment with you to follow a certain philosophy, because then it's authentic to you, then it makes sense for you and that works for your values. But I feel like there are so many people who get, especially in a home where like, if they're living with parents or caregivers or other people who are like bombarding them with information, they're kind of like going along with a philosophy they don't really resonate with just because they're in the environment. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's a huge thing. And for me, my family was not really religious. Like, I don't, yeah, I don't count them as being religious, following any philosophy, like truly following it. Um, but there's definitely that like don't have sex until you're married. It like don't. There wasn't like actual communication of like real life things that like that maybe would have shifted like it totally would have shifted my viewpoints and my actions and just the the amount of shame and guilt I held around sexuality literally followed me until like now. So because of all these things that I was getting bombarded with. And then I did kind of I should like dabble in the church, in Christian church for a few years. Um in high school, like a couple years in high school. And then later on in my early 20s, I kind of tried continuing that on my own. But it's just not in alignment with me anymore. And even at the time, if I like reflect back, I just wanted to feel included. I wanted to feel like I had a community and I had people that accepted me. So I felt like it really resonated with me at the time, but now that I reflect and look back, it's like I wasn't accepting myself, so I was like trying to fill a void. And it didn't last. Obviously, it was not sustainable because it wasn't authentic to me. So I think the big thing, like if I could tell, I'm trying to like get back on track here. If I could tell my 18-year-old self about this topic, I would say sexuality is nothing to be ashamed of. It is natural, it is human, it is literally instinctual to want to do that. We are made to reproduce. So, like, it is a thing, and it's okay to feel those feelings. It is okay to want to do that. It is okay okay, and then also you have to figure this out. Like, you have to learn what this means to you. What does sexuality mean to you? What makes you feel empowered? What makes you feel safe? What are your values? What are your boundaries? Like you have to like there has to be a period of time of like learning this. You're not just gonna like magically know everything. You have to figure it out. Um, which this also goes back to the self-reflection. Like you need to figure it out and actually like take time to think on it. And if you do find yourself in a situation that you're like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, or like this was not in alignment with me, then like using that to learn and make better decisions in the future. Like this is stuff that I think everybody should should know, and everybody should learn, like, it's okay. Like, this is not like, you don't need to feel guilty for wanting to do that. You don't need to feel like you're a horrible human being because you have feelings like this. Like, you're not. And I giggle because it's so ridiculous that clearly this is not just a me thing. Like, so many people literally feel guilty and shameful, like they are morally wrong when they just are feeling a feeling. Are they either not even acting on anything? You know, like that's so it's so fucking it's just fucked. Because like I said, I had guilt and shame tied to this till now, like basically till past 30, till third. Um, oh, I should say, yeah, I even into this year, like there's been moments of feeling like embarrassed or I guess shame is kind of a strong word. I don't really feel ashamed or guilty now. So maybe till I was like 30 that I still hold on to those type of feelings, but I definitely still feel like embarrassed or like awkward sometimes in regards to stuff like this. Not like super grounded and confident and like I can be a bad bitch. Like, no, I'm still fucking awkward and like, it's new. It's still new to me to feel like grounded in myself, but um I've released a lot of that guilt and shame, thank God. So, to prevent this from happening to any of you guys, try to like reflect, figure out, do you hold shame anywhere? Do you hold guilt feelings anywhere with this? What are your boundaries? What are your values? And just really figure it out and learn so you can take actions that actually feel genuine and align with your true self around this topic. You know? Okay, because I feel like a lot of people would be a lot less bitter. They would be a lot freer and more confident and more comfortable if they did release this. Also, one more thing, this applies after you have children, okay? You just because you have a kid doesn't mean you can't be, sexy, that you can't explore your sexuality. And also this applies to being in a marriage or a partnership or like a long-term relationship with somebody. Um, you can explore this for your whole life, throughout your life. It doesn't stop after having kids just because you have kids, like you it I'm laughing because it's like I literally spent a decade of my life plus, um, not realizing this. You know what I mean? And it's just like, are you kidding me? I wait like that much time passed for me to now finally realize this. And it's like, oh my God, it's so frustrating sometimes to reflect on, but it's like, this is my story. This is what happened. So, I'm going with it now. But having children does not stop you from being a woman. And this, or, for me, a woman, and embodying that within yourself. That process is what got you your kids. Like it's not, so embrace it. It's a thing and it's okay. And like that sounds so simple, but it's like, dude, for the people that hold like shame around this, it is like it really fucks with you. And it could take a lot of inner work to release this. So explore sexuality in general, but especially after having kids, make sure you continue that. Make sure you stay in tune with it, because it's part of humanity. It's part of the human experience is to feel that and to embrace it, you know, in whatever way that looks like for you, in whatever way that is in alignment with your values, that is safe, that is, ethical and consensual, of course, but like, just like it's part of being human. It's like live it, like do it. It's fine. It's fun. Let it be fun. Let yourself experience things and just like learn about yourself, learn about your partner or partners in your lifetime. Like make it an experience because that's what it is and it's okay. Okay, next one. Segue. Prioritize experiences, especially when you do not have a lot of responsibilities. So, like, okay, so I had children young. I was like 20 when I got pregnant. And mind you, I had not lived on my own yet. I went to college at a school close to my house, so I lived with my parents. I never experienced living with roommates, or like really being out on my own in any capacity until I moved out of my parents' house and into an apartment with my husband. He's now my husband. At the time, we were just dating, and I was like 20. Okay. No real life experience. Like, I was just like I was so young, like, even just mentally very immature. Okay. So if I could go back and I tell this, uh, like, to anybody, especially people who are younger than me, but even, of course, people who are older than me too, like, prioritize experiences, experience your life, especially when you don't have a lot of other things happening. If you're in college and, you have like school time and then work time, but otherwise it's just like free time, like utilize that free time, like have fun, go do stuff, go hang out with your friends, go to concerts, go to travel, take trips, do stuff. Just go like off-roading, like go drive dirt roads at night and just like look at the moon, like do something, do fun shit, do things you've never done, go try new things. Like, of course, this applies, like I said, to everyone, but let's be real. This is easier to do if you don't have a bunch of other things happening, okay? You know, even especially even people like that maybe go to college or you know what I mean, and like don't have to have a job yet. Like they could just kind of ride it out because they have a scholarship or whatever. Or, I don't know. Like people have different circumstances, but like especially if you literally like or maybe you do work, but like you don't have a lot of bills yet because maybe you live at home or whatever, like however it is, like milk that shit up. Go out, go have fun, just try things, go traveling, go, even just like I said, it doesn't even have to cost money. Going out, driving around at night with your friends and just like chilling, like do those things. It is easier to do those things without the added responsibility of having a family. It is. You can totally do those things with having a family. Obviously, you can take your family with you. Um, or not, but like it's just more logistics. There's more things to consider, especially depending on the age of your family or your children, what stage of life they're in. Can they handle being alone? Do they need to be breastfed? Like, or do they, are they like really little? Do they need to have diaper changes? And like, there's just so many factors, obviously, after having a kid or multiple children that play into it. You have to have a trusted childcare, and sometimes people don't have family members or friends to do that, so they have to pay for childcare. Um, and if you're trying to like go out on a trip, maybe like a weekend or you know what I'm saying? It's like that can cost quite a bit of money for somebody to pay for like multiple days in a row for childcare. There's just a lot of logistics, and even if you don't have kids, there's still logistics with work and things that like, you know, yes, that plays a part into how much you can have free time and how you utilize your free time. But Definitely prioritize those experiences because if you're like me, who had a family young, and especially in those younger, basically the past 10 years, struggled to prioritize myself, my partnership, um, struggle, like, you know, um, it was just a lot of wasted time being bitter and resentful because we were just like in the same cycle, kind of like stuck and just kind of skating through life, not really living life. And that's not fun. It's not fun to go through that, and it's not fun to look back on your life and realize you spent multiple years doing that. So if I could give words of experience to other people, it would be just experience things. And this kind of segues into the last thing as well, is remember you're always an individual. This means even if you're in a relationship, even if you've had kids, or even if you're single and you're just grown up, I say quote unquote grown up, you are you. You can be you. You can do things you've loved to do, even as a kid. Like me and my husband were just talking about this today. Why is it that adults, it's like at a certain age, it's like you can't do things you did as a kid. Like me and him, we both had sticker collections and like we'd put stickers on a bunch of stuff. Because we just got these water bottles today, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna put stickers on my water bottle. So if you're on YouTube, this thing is all acting crazy. So I have some stickers on my water bottle. And I was so excited that I get to finally put these stickers on. And he was like, why is it that as grown-ups, like just suddenly you just stop like doing things you liked as kids, like having stickers or collections, um, or just like we're redoing our room and like stuff around the house right now, and we're kind of made our room more fun for us, like more like what we actually wanted, not like grown-up furniture. I say this with quotations. It's like we have tapestries and black lights and like lighting and just like fun, stuff that like we just feel like we're embracing our inner child. This is one way also you can love and honor your inner child, is by doing stuff like this and like not um suppressing that, not holding that back even as you grow older. Um Something me and him both experienced, especially because we had, like I said, we had kids young, was we were kind of fed like once you have kids, once you're married, like that's it. Your life is over. You can't be a person. You can't focus on yourself. You can't focus on your partnership or pursue things you actually want to pursue. You're just like a parent and you just go to work and come home and poop and sleep and start over, basically. And like it wasn't, and I should say that was like kind of direct and indirect. Like that was the message we were getting from like multiple perspectives. Okay. So that's what we did. Like that's what we did for a decade, like I said. Not even that. No, actually, we started getting out of it before then, but um just for so many years, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna find the first job I could get and do it, even though I hate it. And you know what I mean? It's like, it was kind of just like, that's what you do. It doesn't matter what you like. It doesn't matter if it doesn't align with you. It doesn't matter if you're unhappy, miserable. You just do it. And that's such bullshit. People should not be told that. And it's like, if we would have learned the things we know now back then, like I said, our whole life would be different. Our whole headspace, our whole, like, we probably would have just moved. We would have just, up and moved to California or Vegas or something, like, you know, and just figured it out like that. Like, we didn't even know that was an option. And that sounds so silly to be like, I didn't know. But what I mean by that is like based on the conditioning and the influence of everyone around us, our headspace, our mindset was so limited that like we didn't see any other options outside of that. And that's such crap. Like that sucks. That sucks to realize. And it sucks to know that we're not the only ones that have experienced that or are currently experiencing that. Um, you know, like it sucks. And I hope more people learn to wake up at a younger age and learn and share that out so more people learn to wake up and it just keeps growing because um I want people to know that you can pursue what you want. Like, yes, there might be logistics to figure out how to do it, but just because you're growing up doesn't mean you can't. Just because you're in a partnership or you're married or just because you had kids or even while you're pregnant, like doesn't mean you have to just like stop everything that makes you you. Like that's not true. You know, you can change your mind on your career, you can change your mind about who you want to be with or where you want to go or what you want to do. But because that's just life. You figure it out as you go and you learn, and it's okay to learn. It's okay to grow. You're meant to grow. You're meant to evolve and experience life. And this happens through all phases of life. So you remember to do that. I guess is what I mean. Remember to stick with it and to do that throughout your life, through all your phases of life, instead of like suppressing yourself or putting yourself to the side because you have other responsibilities. Like, yes, obviously tend to your responsibilities and handle your business, but that doesn't mean you can't also take care of yourself, learn about yourself, explore yourself, and just be yourself as an adult. It's okay. It's okay to be childlike in nature as an adult. It's okay to embrace that. And I think if more adults embrace their childhood self, their teenager self, that kind of vibrant, young, free, spontaneous nature, people would be a lot happier. People would be less bitter and resentful to the world because they feel like they have a sense of you know, that life is still worth living, that you're not just stuck in a pattern that you're not even happy that you're in. There's still a sense of unknown and adventure. And I'm finally realizing that now, thankfully. And so now I'm excited to see what the future holds. And I'm excited that I'm learning the skill set to help me through life, help me process my feelings and communicate things and do inner work on myself so I know what I want and I know how to get what I want and how to pursue it. And you know what I mean? Just the whole, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, sometimes I look back, clearly I'll look back and be like, man, things, if I would have known XYZ, it would have been so different. But it's like, all I can say is no, I'm glad I know it now. And I'm glad I can share it with you. And, I guess energetically share it to my 18-year-old self. And help you guys learn from what I've learned. And if you're younger, if you're in different circumstances than me, maybe you could utilize these things to help you in your own life and, you know, just help you live a more authentic and alignment version of your life. Okay, guys, that's my 5 things. So to recap, self-reflect, ask yourself questions to learn more about yourself, and do this consistently throughout your life. Love and honor your inner child. Explore your sexuality throughout your life, especially after having kids. Prioritize experiences, especially when you don't have a lot of responsibilities, but of course, also prioritize experiences after that fact as well. And also remember you're always an individual through all phases of your life, whether you're in a partnership, single, have kids, empty nester or whatever, like you are an individual first and foremost. So honor that and experience that. All right, guys, hope this was helpful for you and you gained some insight. I'll see you next time.